Hi, Eden.
Okay.
No. Very sad.
I know. What are you doing?
All right, guys. Okay, let's take a look. Parallel lines in the coordinate plane. Parallel lines. So, specifically having to do with the slope, because we've been working with equations of lines and slopes of lines. So when we have two non-vertical lines are parallel if they have the same slope. All right, so take a look at these two lines, right? Parallel, another way to describe them would be two lines that never intersect, right? They're never going to get closer to each other. They stay parallel, you know, forever and ever, right? So if we look at these two lines here, I know it's a little hard to see, but if I were to count, looks like we go up to the right one. So this has a slope of 2. And then if I compare that to this other line, the same thing, right? Up 2 over 1. So this line on the right side also has a slope of 2. Even if they look parallel sometimes, if the slopes are not exactly the same, they're not going to be parallel. Okay, so you have to make sure they end up with the same value for the slope. Now I mentioned here all vertical lines are parallel. Why would I have to say all vertical lines are parallel? What do we know about the slopes of parallel line or vertical lines? Well, they never connect, but specifically, what about a vertical line slope? Kitty?
Oh, they never end.
Yeah, what's the slope though, Gabe?
0. Right?
Opposite.
No, because they're undefined, so that they will always be straight.
Yeah, vertical lines, the slopes are undefined, so they don't have a value. But if you try to find the slope of one line and it ends up being undefined, and then you do the slope of another line and it's undefined, they're automatically parallel vertical lines, okay? Now, if they have a 0 slope, that would be a horizontal line, okay? All right, let's take a look. We want to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, who can remind me y equals mx plus b? Okay, that passes through the given point and is parallel to the graph of the given equation. Okay, so we have a point here, x and y, and we have an equation y equals 1/4 x plus 7. So the first thing that we want to do is identify in this equation, what is the slope of y equals 1/4 x plus 7? What's the slope of that line? What's the slope of this line?
1/4.
Yeah, so what we want to do, yeah, so if it's a parallel slope, right? So the parallel slope,
I don't know who you are, but you need my pencil. I don't know. That's my prize.
She took my pencil.
That's my prize. I didn't her notes.
Ella.
okay. Okay, so if it's parallel, we're going to use a slope of 1/4. Now, that plus 7 at the end, we don't need that, okay? We're not going to use that. The only information we needed from this was to take that slope, that coefficient of x. Now, we're going to use x and y. And what do we need in order to write the equation of a line? Y equals mx plus b. Well, we have m. We figured out what that is. What do we need? We need to figure out b. Okay, so this is going to look very similar to what we did in 4.2. So I'm just going to write down y equals mx plus b. So I remember, what am I substituting in? So -1 is y.
-1 equals 1/4 times 4.
Good.
Plus b.
Plus b. So I'm just replacing.
That's negative.
It's a positive. There's no negative in front here. So -1 is my y. So I'm replacing y with -1. Then I have m, and then replace x with my x coordinate, which is 4. Okay, so now let's go ahead and multiply that out. So I have negative 1.
Equals 1.
Okay, negative 1 equals 1 plus b. So subtract 1, subtract 1. Be careful because negative 1 minus 1, Giddy, are you writing this down? Negative 2 is equal to b. Now I'm going to take my slope and my y-intercept, and I just want to do that final step of just now writing the equation of the line. So that's going to be y equals 1/4 x minus 2. So it almost looks the same, right? It looks very similar to the equation, the line I gave you, just instead of 1/4 x plus 7, we found a new y-intercept, and that was a minus 2, a negative 2. Any questions so far? Okay, let's take a look at B. I have an ordered pair. I have x and I have y. I need to figure out what is the slope of this line. Well, it's not negative 3. Why?
Negative 3 over 1.
It's y equals 3x plus 4 because it's not.
It's not in y equals mx plus b, so we need to rewrite so that it is in y equals mx plus b form so that we can identify the m. Now, in this case, it's pretty easy to do because remember when we rewrote it the other day, what our process was to isolate y. So how do we isolate y? What do we need to get rid of?
3x.
Good, so I'm going to add 3x to both sides. So y equals, I'm going to put the 3x first, 3x plus 4. So what do I need from this equation? I need the coefficient of x. Okay, so that is my slope. My slope is going to be 3. Okay, again, y equals mx plus b. I need m and I need b. We have m now. How do I find b?
You already have B. No, you don't.
Ah, but this 4 is the y-intercept of this line. We have a new point, so we have a new
We're
y-intercept.
going to do 2 equals 3 times negative 2.
2 equals 3 times negative 2 plus b, right? So we're using this, and we're using this and substituting it into the, right, so,
Plus b and then you add 6 on both sides.
good, so we have negative 6 plus b, add 6,
And then it's 8 equals b.
8 equals b, and then we put together, right, what information we're putting together?
Y equals 3x.
The 3 and the b, which is 8. And Eitan, you said y equals 3x plus 8. Okay.
Wait, where did you get the 2 equals 3?
So y equals mx plus b. So I'm using the y is 2 equals, and then m is 3 times x. So I'm replacing all the values in the y equals mx plus b form. Okay, we have 2 more of these. So the next one, is it in y equals mx plus b?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all I need to do is recognize that m is 2. Okay, I want you to try this one on your own.
So if it's plus b, then we change minus 1 to plus b.
So this minus 1, we don't use at all. We have to find a new value of b.
Oh.
Okay, so go ahead and solve, and then I'll... Let's see. So...
So we have to rewrite it, right?
Yeah, you gotta rewrite it.
Would it be minus?
So listen, the bottom line is if they're parallel, I know my answer is gonna be 2x plus or minus, depending on what b is, okay? So let's see, what you do? Negative 5? Is it plus 5 or minus 5?
Wait, positive.
No,
Are you sure? You got -5? Did you get -5?
I did.
So let me see how you set it up. Equals, and then it's gonna be 2, 1, and then plus b.
2x minus 5. Sure.
Sam, where'd you go? Get minus, oh, good. Yeah. Okay, I think over here, did we get -5 for B? Ella, did you get -5?
Yeah.
Good. There. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I know that.
You see what you did?
No, I put negative.
Okay. All right, the next one, I see some of you had already started on it.
Whoa.
That's fine. Okay, so first thing I have to do, I gotta isolate y in my equation. So I'm gonna subtract, it depends on how you do it. I'm gonna subtract x. And then I wanna get rid of that -2. So I'm gonna divide everything by -2. Okay, so if I have a negative over negative, that's going to turn it into a positive slope. When I have x divided by 2, I want to write that as a fraction. So when I divide by 2, that's the same thing as multiplying by a half. So I'm going to write that as 1/2. And then I have -8 divided by a -2. Now that +4 is irrelevant. I want you to always remember, I don't really care about that y-intercept. I just care about what's the slope of that line, right? So I know my answer is going to be 1/2 x plus b, right? Because, so again, all of these look the same except for the y-intercept. How do we find that y-intercept again? We go back to the point that we were given, which was -2, -2. Right, so I'm going to plug in -2 equals 1/2 times -2 plus b. So 1/2 times -2 is going to give us -1. And then what do we get when we, yeah, so when we add 1, we get -1 for b. Now we go back, because again, what did we get for our slope here? We said slope was 1/2, so I'm using the slope of 1/2, and I'm using a y-intercept of -1. So it's going to be y equals 1/2 x minus 1. Okay, all right. Again, the only thing that's new based on what we did before is that you have to recognize what that slope is first, and then finding the y-intercept is pretty straightforward.
This is a big lesson. I actually get it.
So the next, it looks like it's long, but it's not that bad. Okay, perpendicular lines. Have we heard of perpendicular lines before?
Yeah.
What do you know about perpendicular lines?
All of them. They cross each other.
Okay, they cross each other, so they do intersect. And one of the things you'll learn in geometry next year is that perpendicular lines make right angles. Have we heard of that? So right here, they always make a right angle. Sometimes what you'll see is a little box or a little square put where the lines are crossing. That just represents a 90-degree angle. Now, you don't really need to know that until geometry. What we need to know for algebra in terms of writing the equations of lines is that the slopes of perpendicular lines are what we call opposite reciprocals. Okay, so what are reciprocals? Reciprocals are like flipped, right? So, for example, if I gave you 2/3, the reciprocal would be 3/2. Now, opposite means one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So 2/3 and -3/2 would be examples of opposite reciprocals because one's positive, one's negative, and they are flipped.
Wait, so
So you could do 3/2.
Yeah, so if I did, well, let's say I had 3. Oh, 3 over negative 2. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, that's fine too.
2 over 3 equals n.
Exactly. So if I gave you a slope of negative 3, what would be the opposite reciprocal to that? Positive 1 over 3. So if we have a whole number, remember, we can always put that over 1 and take the reciprocal. But you just have to make sure they are opposites. One has to be positive, one has to be negative. Another way to look at it is the product of the slopes is always going to be negative 1. If I were to multiply these together, do I get negative 1? Yeah, I get negative 6 over positive 6. That's right. And negative 3 times a third. Yeah. So that's a way you can confirm that they are opposite reciprocals. And then here, just a quick note, vertical and horizontal lines are also perpendicular. Again, I just have to express that because vertical lines, what did we say? Vertical lines, what's undefined slope, and a horizontal is 0. Okay, so this is going to look very similar to what we just did, but this time we want slope-intercept form of a perpendicular to the graph that's given. Okay, so I have x and y. I have 4 and 7. Now, the slope of this line is 2/3. I'm going to just cross off that negative 1 because I don't care about it. All I care about is that 2/3. Now, if I said that I wanted a line parallel, we would use the 2/3. But if I want perpendicular, I want a negative 3 halves, or negative 3 over 2. Okay, so again, we always ignore the y-intercept of that line. So I know my equation is going to be a negative 3 halves x plus b.
So it's the same thing. All
It's
you have to do
this,
is make-
you just have to change it, flip it, and make it the opposite sign. Now it's going to be repeating, so it's going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to plug in, 7 is my y. So I have my negative 3 halves. X is 4. And then plus b. Now we do have fractions, so if you need to double check with your calculator, these are pretty straightforward though. I have 7 equals, yeah, this is going to be negative 12 over 2, so that's negative 6 plus b. So we're going to add 6, yeah.
When you write the equation last one, 2/3 x plus 13
Okay.
or
So be careful. This is the most common mistake. Want to make sure that we're using that perpendicular slope. So I'm going to go back to, don't go back to the 2/3, right? We're going to use the negative 3 over 2. So I have y equals negative 3 over 2x, oops, plus 13. Okay.
are we gonna get like a practice test?
Tomorrow I'll have a practice. Yeah.
When's the test, Monday?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. So I have negative 3 for x and y for 1, but let's look at the line. Y equals 1/3 x plus 2. Again, if it helps you to just kind of cross off what we don't need, I don't need that plus 2, okay? I never will need that y-intercept. I'm just looking at the slope. So if the slope of this line is 1/3,
It just means negative 3.
that means it's going to be negative 3. Now, if you put negative 3 over 1, that's fine, right? It's the same thing. So I know my equation is going to be y equals negative 3x plus b. And so let's substitute in. So I have 1 equals negative 3. Do I get times negative 3?
Yes.
And then plus b. So I get 1 equals negative 3 times negative 3 is 9.
Oh, wait.
Oops. What?
Oh, I didn't multiply by the
Oops. What do we get for b? Negative 8. Good. So again, don't use the 1/3. I want to use, whoops, I didn't mean to cross that out. I want to use the negative 3 and the negative 8.
So it'd be y equals negative minus 3.
Negative
Oh, 3x.
3x minus 8.
8.
Pretty straightforward, nothing surprising. Okay,
They have
You-
it harder.
you wanna, no, not, I mean, maybe on the next page where I have kind of, I don't wanna say like word problems, but
No.
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 Oh, it's not, they're not like what you think. Okay, what do we have to do with C? I have to put it in y equals mx plus b. So let's go ahead and subtract 2x. So I get y equals negative 2x plus 5. Now, I don't really care about that plus 5, right? So I'm not using that plus 5. I'm just looking at that negative 2 slope. But I don't want to use negative 2. I'd use negative 2 if they're parallel.
So 1 over negative, or 1 over.
Positive 1 over 2. Good. So my equation is going to be y equals 1/2 x plus whatever b is. Go ahead and see, what do we get for b? What'd you get? You got negative 3. What do we get? You got an extra long pencil there, Gabe?
Yeah.
You got negative 3 as well?
Sure did.
Okay. One, good. Looks like we're getting, oh, yeah, I was looking at your D. So let's see, did we get negative 3?
Yeah.
Let's see, negative 2 equals 1/2 times 2 plus b. So 1/2 times 2 is 1. Yeah, Leo. Yeah. So I get negative 2 minus 1 gives us negative 3. So I'm going to put together my slope of 1/2 and my y-intercept of negative 3. So I get y equals 1/2 x minus 3. Okay, one more. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this one's already in slope-intercept form, so I don't care about the plus 1. What about the negative 2/3? What does the slope? Positive 3 over 2. Did you guys give this one a try yet? What do we get for the y-intercept here? Did you fix it, or did you see? That's right, b equals negative 3. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so
Your reciprocal doesn't become negative anymore.
which one? For D?
It's already negative in the.
It's negative, so we gotta make it positive. So if you have a negative slope, the perpendicular slope will be positive. If you have positive, you make it negative. All right, what's 3/2 times 6?
9.
Yeah, because we get 18 over 2, 9. And then we just subtract it. Good. And then who can tell me what's the final answer here? Oh, okay. Y, Leon, what were you going to say? Y equals?
3 over 2x.
Good. Okay, excellent. Do you think we got a good handle on that? Excellent. All right. Okay, so the next page we have kind of, I don't want to even really call them word problems. It's really just an interpretation of what we were just doing, but in words. It's not like anything scary where we have to figure out all the different parts. Okay? No, the word problems is when you have to like take it apart and look at all the different pieces, and this is,
This just sounds like a word problem with extra steps.
Leanne, what were you, did you? Oh, okay, so we want to write the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, of an equation of a line perpendicular.
Wait, do we have to memorize the forms for the test? Or are you gonna have like a little?
I'll give you the, I'm gonna give you like the point slope and slope intercept.
Is it y equals 1/3 x plus 4?
Let's see, so did you solve for y here first? Or are you talking about it on the final answer?
That is the fact.
Oh,
Like I did, I isolated the y. You
let's see.
subtract by 3,
Let's subtract 3x from both sides, so I have 2y equals negative 3x plus 8.
And you divide 2.
I got y equals -3/2.
Oh, I forgot to divide 2 and then.
Okay, so y equals -3 halves x and then plus 4.
Where's the point?
Oh, so that's the other part of this word problem. Okay, it passes through the y-intercept of that line. Oh,
4.
4.
This case of learning math.
Yeah, go get a new one.
That's always
Time.
So-
This and I'm ripped.
Isn't the y-intercept of this line, so isn't that a positive 4? Isn't that what b is equal to? Now, normally I would have told you we would ignore that information. But because it says using that same y-intercept, now, that's not the equation of the line. What do I need,
You
Leon?
also need the x-intercept, right?
Well, we could, but we don't, what do we need?
Y equals -2.
We need m and we need b. Now, b, we just found out that's 4. Okay, so there's just a little twist to this problem. What was the word here? Perpendicular.
So that means that it'll just be 2/3.
Exactly. So if my slope here was -3/2, we want to use 2/3. See, so like the process, like it just spelled it out a little different in words. I didn't have to worry about finding the point because they said use that same y-intercept. So it's just going to be y equals,
So we don't have to change it.
Nope.
Y
Nope.
equals 2/3 + 4.
That's it, 2/3 x plus 4. Okay, yes.
A little bit of a better question for this part. What does it mean if this is negative and this is positive? For the-
If a positive one, negative one, they're perpendicular. Okay, slope-intercept form. We want a line parallel to this one, passes through the x-intercept of that line. Okay, let's work with first. What is the equation of that line and y? So I'm going to subtract 3x. So I get -2y equals -3x plus 6. And then we got to divide everything by -2. So that's going to give us, okay, so -3 over -2, that's going to give us a +3 over 2x and a -3. Now, we want this to be parallel. So I need to use that same slope, don't I? Right? Remember, parallel, we're same slope.
Wait, is that -3/2?
It's positive because I had a -3 divided by -2, so a negative over negative make that positive.
So y equals -2/3.
Okay, how do I find b? Well,
And then negatives.
it says we're using this x-intercept of this line. Do you remember how to find, this goes way back, do you remember how to find x-intercepts?
No.
Yes, yes, I do.
Oh, yeah.
What do? We let y equals 0.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's look at that. If I let y equals 0,
It's 2.
that means,
X equals 2.
right, 2 times y. If y is 0, wouldn't this whole term go away? So I have 3x equals 6.
No, it's gonna be on the test.
Probably.
Anything's fair game. Okay, so I know this one's kind of a lengthy one here. Okay, I got 2, 0. I got 2, 0. Is that my y-intercept? No. So what do I need to do? I need to find if this is my x and this is my y, and my slope is 3/2, what's b gonna be?
0.
Wait, how did y equals 0?
So I'm using 3/2 for m and 2, 0.
Let's just bring over x just x.
So it's gonna be 0 equals 3/2 times 2 plus b.
What in the
Max,
I said freaking
it doesn't matter. I don't like, sorry, this is really small here, guys. It's gonna be -3 for b. So yeah, this was kind of I would consider this more like a bonus problem on a test.
one for extra
Oh,
credit.
thank God.
Well, that's what I just said.
Oh, okay.
Bonus question, bonus question.
Ben.
This one's really hard.
Okay, so I'm gonna put it all together, 3/2 x minus 3, so that's the final answer. So it had a whole process here. We had to find the slope of this one, we had to find the x-intercept, and then we had to find the value of b. So that's why I mentioned it would be more like a bonus question on the test. I wouldn't have this as an average problem.
If you get into harder like algebra things, are there gonna be like more things like this?
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
that's gonna be like the norm.
a little bit. Okay, the next set, I just want you to figure out, are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither, okay? All right, so what we want to do is we want to look at the equations and identify what are the slopes. Okay, so the first line, y equals x plus 5. What's the slope of this line? Right, so for this one, m is equal to 1. What about with the other line?
Negative 1, so technically 1.
So
Technically 1 though, right?
Negative 1.
it would be negative 1, right? So this slope would be, they are perpendicular. How do we know they're perpendicular?
There's 1 and negative 1, it's like the opposite.
They are, one is the reciprocal of itself, one is positive, and then negative 1 is negative. So these are perpendicular.
Oh, so, okay, so if 1 is positive, then negative.
Yeah.
So perpendicular means opposite.
Opposite and reciprocal, but one is the reciprocal of itself, right? If I take 1 and I take the reciprocal, it's still 1. Okay, with B, what is the slope of this line? This is actually in point slope form. Do you recognize what the slope is going to be? What's going to be? It's going to be 2/5. It's going to be whatever the coefficient. Well, what's the slope of this one? Okay, they're the same, so they have to be parallel.
So it matters what the slope.
It matters what the slope is. Okay, we got the first line here. Well,
It is. It's parallel because
this has a slope of 2. This one is not in slope intercept form. So
Neither.
Well, it is.
no, it's
Parallel.
you think parallel?
You're right.
Oh, no.
No, it's perpendicular.
Perpendicular?
No, it's neither, right?
No, it's parallel because you add 4 both sides, then you divide by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so it's 2x.
So divide by 2, y equals 2x, so yeah, Dan.
Oh goodness, let's
That proves you're wrong.
No, I said
Anytime you can
said
put
A is right.
on each square.
there's not a lot to get heated over this. It's like either it's parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Do they end up with the same slope?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one's gonna be neither because they didn't do it at all, so you just know it.
Okay. This one, the slope is 1/3. You say neither? How come?
I say neither.
You say neither?
1/3 is perpendicular.
Negative 1 or 3 is neither.
Yeah, but then the slope is 1. Oh, wait.
So I get negative 1/3 x plus 2. So we have positive 1/3 and negative 1/3.
No, it's neither.
Neither. What's the problem here?
It has to be
It's not the reciprocal, so this is neither.
If it was negative 3 over 1.
Yeah. And a quick way to check this, if you were to multiply these two numbers together, do we get negative 1? No, we get negative 1/9. What time is it? I got 6 minutes. So I can at least, no, I can't let you go that early. Let me show you what the homework is. Oh, I have to hand back homework. That's right. Is someone going to help me pass back homework?